Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Emerson Unitarian Universalist Congregation, and welcome to our visitors who may be here today as well. My name is George Cleere. I'm honored to serve this year as the Board of Trustees President for Emerson. And this morning, we're just going to have a delightful time. Bruce, thank you so much. You always provide the best music. I'm loving it. So, my wife Melanie told me, I hope we don't one day take Bruce for granted, and I assure you that we will never do that. Really appreciate that. So this morning, we're going to have just a tiny bit of centering. The centering thought is in your order of service. And as we ponder that phrase, please turn to hymn number 360, Rise If You Were Able. Join us in song. I think that's in the gray hymnal.
Here we have gathered side by side, circle and kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek love find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Sing now together, that's our heart's own song. Here we are gathered, called to celebrate days of our lifetime, matter small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can. Sing now together, this our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrow and regret, but in the shadows let us not forget. We are now gathered, know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us, as we give we gain. Sing now in friendship, this our heart's own song.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Michael Myers, and I'm the chairman of the Building IT Committee, member of the choir when it's in session, and essentially a worship associate, and that's why I'm here this morning. If you look in your order of service, we have this new perforated piece here that for people who are new and want to get our Emerson Chalice Guide. The only problem I have with this is most of us don't run around with a pin anymore, so if you want a pin, please ask the ushers in the back to get one. There are also some questions on the back, and you don't have to answer this, but you might be answered this if you're in fellowship later on, so be advised. Each Sunday, we light a chalice of acknowledgement and remembrance for the Cherokee and Muskogee nations of people who lived in this land before us. May this light humbly remind us of our in-connection and the impact of our collective actions. We also light each chalice for the Native Americans who were enslaved in our country and all the misdeeds we did in connection with that. Each Sunday, we also light our chalice. Its light is a symbol of Unitarian Universalism and a reminder of our commitment to be a beacon of love and hope to all who enter. Today's chalice lighting words are not written here. May we all gather with the light in the heart and be our best at all times. Now, in the spirit of beloved community, let's greet and welcome each other to worship as we share our congregational affirmation. We need not think alike to love alike. Please gather and move around as you may. Those who are online, use the chat to introduce yourself and say hello.
Good morning. I'm Melanie LeMay, and I'm a member of the pastoral care team. You will know us because we have these gold name plates on. At this time in our service, we pause to reflect and share the joys and sorrows and concerns in our lives and light the candles of our shared care. We begin by lighting the vigil bowl. Its light represents the light of hope for the peaceful resolution of all conflicts on the planet, holding a special light out for our Ukrainian and Russian colleagues. I invite you now to take a deep breath and enter this time of reflection. Notice what is on your heart today. Are there joys enlivening your spirit? Perhaps there are sorrows or concerns that you carry with you today. Let this be a time to give them space, to hold them with gentleness and compassion. Now take another deep breath. Allow yourself to receive these joys from around our community. Today we had no joys to share, but I know there are joys in your hearts today. And with an open heart, hold these sorrows and concerns. This is from Mary Nell McLaughlin. She says, "Please keep me in your thoughts and prayers." Mary Nell spent 18 days in the hospital when COVID-19 damaged her lungs. She will be on 24/7 oxygen for the next 3 to 6 months until hopefully her lungs will heal. We know there may be joy, sorrows, and concerns that are unspoken. Please feel free to say out loud or type in the name of the person you hold in your heart today. George. Now let us sit in silence for a moment, allowing ourselves to feel part of this community of care. Let's send our heartfelt, caring intentions to all beings everywhere and to ourselves by offering the Buddhist prayer of loving kindness. Please repeat the words after me. May we all be filled with loving kindness. May we all be free from harm and suffering. May we all be well in body, heart, and mind. May we all be at peace. Blessed be.
One way we seek to live our values is by partnering with other organizations who work to bring love, kindness, and justice to the world. We encourage our members and friends to support their work financially as we share our weekly collection and also engaging in direct action. This month, we are in partnership with Life Safe Resources. Live safe? Live safe, okay. I don't know why you want to do the. Live Safe is located in Marietta and committed to providing safety and healing to those impacted by domestic violence, sexual assault, and elder abuse by offering housing, educational programs, and consulting. We work to create awareness and foster, they work to create and foster awareness support within the community. They work with women, men, and children, regardless of sexual orientation, gender, or gender identity, religion, race, or the ethnicity, who have been affected by domestic violence, sexual assault, or elder abuse. A link to the way to give is posted in the chat. For those in the sanctuary, as the basket is passed, please feel free to offer a donation or take a card which describes the many ways to give. All donations, unless otherwise specified, are shared equally.
Young at heart. Don't be shy. I Dusty. Very much. What is this? Oh my goodness. It looks like it might be a story. Sorry, George. I've heard about this story. It's about a gnat. Do you know what a gnat is? It's It's a tiny little flying animal. How big are they? E-big? Just teeny, tiny, tiny. Well, it looks like this story starts with, what are the starting words for stories? Once upon a time. Can you join me? Once upon a time. Oh, there was a gnat. His name was Namus, and he was known because of his sensitivity as perceptive Namus. Namus decided, after reflection upon his state, and for good and sufficient reasons, to move to a different house. The place that he chose was eminently suitable, and it was a big floppy ear of an elephant. Interesting. All that remained to do was to make the move, and quite soon Namus had installed himself in the large and highly attractive quarters he had found. The elephant's ear was his home, and was always the case. He felt, the feeling persisted until it became quite permanent, that there was a close connection between his life, his history, his very being, and this very space in the elephant's ear. The ear was so warm, so welcoming, so vast, and the scene of so many experiences he had. Naturally, Namus had not moved into the house without certain amount of new house ceremony. Did you guys ever move and have a new house ceremony? Where you bless your house? Sometimes that happens, yeah. And he had a regard for proper observances of situations. On the very first day, just before moving in, he had cried at the top of his tiny voice his decision to move in. "Oh, elephant!" he shouted. "Know that none other than I, Namus the gnat, known as Perceptive Namus, proposes to make this place my abode. As it is your ear, I am giving you the customary notice of my intention to move in and make it my new home." Not a word from that elephant. But Namus didn't really know that the elephant had not heard him at all. Neither, for that fact, had his host felt the entry or even the presence or absence of the gnat and his various families. Not to labor this point, he had no idea that gnats were in his ear at all. When the time came when Namus, the perceptive, decided for what were to him compelling and important reasons that he would move his house again, he reflected what he must do. So in accordance with his established and beloved customs, he prepared himself a declaration of his abandonment to put in the elephant's ear. Thus it was that the decision finally and irrevocably taken, and his words sufficiently were rehearsed. Namus shouted once more down the elephant's ear. He shouted once, no reply. He shouted twice, no reply. Then, the third time, gathering all of his strong voice as a little gnat and much determination, he said, "Oh, elephant! Know that I, the gnat, Perceptive Namus, propose to leave my hearth and home, to quit my residence in this ear of yours, where I've dwelt for so long. And this is for a significant and sufficient reason, which I am prepared to explain to you." Now, finally, the words of that gnat came to the hearing of that elephant, and the gnat shouting had penetrated and gotten through. The elephant raised his great head and trumpeted, "Roar!" And his trumpeting contained a sense of this reply: "Go in peace, for in truth, you're going from my ear, as is of as much interest and significance to me as was your coming to my ear." And that was the end of the conversations between the gnat, who lived in the air, and the giant elephant. The end. The end? What kind of an ending is that? Did that story make any sense to you? So I'm wondering, you know what happens when I wonder? I'm wondering, would you say that all of those gnat messages to the elephant when he screamed in the elephant's ear were important to the elephant? Did you get the sense they were? Oh, nodding, nope. I don't think they were important. I don't think they were, but the gnat sure thought they were. Do you agree that the gnat thought they were important? So how do you think the elephant's lack of response when Nat moved in, and then his reply as Nat was moving out, made that tiny little gnat feel? How do you think the gnat felt? Any ideas? Yeah, what do you think? Do you think the gnat felt listened to and respected and included in the conversation? I don't think so. Probably not. So what I wonder as we start listening to Mr. George's sermon is, how would I reply as a gnat to that elephant? How would I handle it differently, and how would I listen as an elephant to that tiny little gnat? We'll have to think about those after we sing our song of dedication. You will find your song of dedication words on the screen and also in your order of service. Shall we make a circle?
Is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with each other, thus do we promise to each other. Blackbirds singing in the dead of night, take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life you were only waiting for that moment to arise. Blackbirds singing in the dead of night, take those sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life you were only waiting for that moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the light of a dark night. blackbirds singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life you were only waiting for that moment to arise. You were only waiting for that moment. You were only waiting for that moment to arise.
Bruce, you amaze me. Thank you. I was 12 years old in the summer of 1968, and it was the hottest summer that I could remember. Fortunately, there was a swimming pool that was built right on the very block where I lived. It was a Madison Street swimming pool in Russellville, Alabama, and that's where you could find me every single day in the summer of 68. Every day except for one. That day I sat in my own backyard looking at the Madison Street swimming pool from the inside of a big cardboard box. Yes, you heard me right. I was sitting in my own backyard in a big cardboard box. So I could see out of a hole I'd cut in the box the Madison Street swimming pool, which looked very inviting. It was about 50 yards away from where I sat, and I could see it through the chain link fence that was the barrier between my backyard and the pool property. I would rather have been in the pool, but I wasn't. I was in my backyard, and I was sitting in a box. Now, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of being in a cardboard box in a sweltering summer under a sizzling sun. It was hot. I mean, really hot. And I remember how the salty sweat that ran down my forehead burned my eyes as I furtively tried to wipe it away. Now, the reason I was in that box is because I needed to see what it felt like. I needed to try to understand what it was like because of something I had seen the day before at the Madison Street swimming pool. I saw another little boy in a cardboard box, and that image was burned into my memory, and it is there in my memory to this day. But wait, that's kind of the end of the story. Maybe I should start at the beginning. So it's going to help you to know that my family had a free lifetime membership to the Madison Street swimming pool. Now, it was built on the block where we lived, as I said, but it was a members-only pool, so you had to be a member to get in there. And it would help you to know that this was probably the most formative influence on my childhood. I don't remember exactly when they started construction on the swimming pool. I was very, very young. But I can tell you, I remember the story my father told about how he finagled the free lifetime membership. So, you need to know my father was kind of the quintessential old-time wily Southern lawyer. And he discovered that the construction of the swimming pool had encroached upon our property about 3 feet. Well, I'm speculating about this, but I don't think he divulged that information as soon as he got it. He waited until about 2 or 3 weeks before the swimming pool was near completion. And then he informed their board of directors that, well, they had encroached on our land 3 feet. Would they please be so kind as to move the swimming pool? Just that much. Well, they quickly met to discuss the matter, and in a gesture of good faith, they offered our family the free family membership for a lifetime, and he graciously accepted. Now, later, my mother informed me that, that was one of Dad's stories, and actually the free membership came because Dad had filed the incorporation papers and became the attorney on record for the corporation from then on. But I think she made up her story. And it was a convenient kind of cover story just to be able to tell to the other people, in the PTA meetings that were paying members to the pool. Plus, I just kind of like my dad's stories. But he also told me that he had been the paper boy for F. Scott Fitzgerald, had played bass in a band for a guy named Hank Williams, and when he was in high school, he taught Bart Starr to throw the forward pass. So there you have it. But I love my dad's stories, and I'm sticking to it. So in the summer, when the pool was open, I just spent as much time as I could there. I was there when they unlocked the gate in the morning, and I stayed there until they locked the gate at night. And after that, you could climb over that fence. I was there a lot. Not only were there the obvious recreational advantages to being a member of that pool, but there were extra benefits you could derive. For example, Tuesdays and Thursdays were visitors' days, and you could invite two people of your choosing who were non-members of your family to enjoy the cool, clear waters and escape from the sweltering southern summer sun. Well, I quickly learned what a boon and benefit this was for yours truly. So I held out that Visitors' Day invitation like a carrot on a stick to my friends, and you would not believe the favors that came my way. I had homework done for me. I found myself ushered to the front in the lunch line, and at recess when we were playing tag football, they even let me play quarterback, and I wasn't really that good. But I appreciated it. Now, it's kind of embarrassing, but I have to admit, I really, really took advantage of that carrot. Or to put it another way, as they might say in the southern vernacular, I milked that cow dry. Now, one particular Visitors' Day, the pool was exceptionally filled. Not only with a throng of bribe-offering, favor-giving, boot-licking visitors, but also with all the members there, too. There were two reasons for this. It was nearing the end of the summer. Everybody wanted to take advantage of the pool while it was still open, and we were in the middle of one of the worst heat waves, I think, in recent memory. Well, everybody was splishing, splashing, swimming, tanning, talking, doing things you do at a pool. I was having a great time, and then somebody yelled, "Hey, there's a box coming down the street." Well, that's all it took to get me out of the pool, and pretty much everyone else too. We went to the side of the pool. I put my hands inside the linked fence. And we looked down the street, and sure enough, there was a box moving slowly toward us. You could make out legs from the knees down. And as the box got closer to us, you could make out fingers poking through two handholds so the person in the box could hold it up. And there was a small slot in the front, presumably so the one inside could see where they were going. Nobody made a sound as that box neared the intersection of Green Street and Madison Street. That's where the only entrance to the pool was. There were 19 steps up to that closed gateway and that chain link fence. I know because I had counted them like 1,000 times. And most of the time I ran up them in breakneck speed so I could get to the pool as quickly as possible. But the box wasn't going that fast. In fact, the person had to lift the box up to step to the next step, and then lift the box up again and step to the next step, and then lift it again, and so on, and so on. You get the idea. It took a long time. I don't think anybody was breathing. Everybody was waiting. Now, I could tell that the person in the box was a small young person because of the height, because of the size of the fingers. I figured he was a person about my age. But I also figured the person wasn't a white kid like me. So as he stood at the gate, the silence of the crowd cracked like the dry shell of a pecan when the booming, authoritarian voice of our lifeguard demanded, "What do you want?" It was a question we all knew was coming. "I want to go swimming," the voice replied, with a voice that I could tell he was trying to hold steady. Then the lifeguard said the next words that we all knew were coming. "I'm sorry, this pool is for members only." There was a long, painful silence, and then without a word, the person in the box turned around and began a long descent down those stairs. And if you can imagine, that process was even harder going down and slower going down, because you would have to pick the box up and then move it forward before you step down, for fear that it might, catch on the step you just exited. Now, the person in the box learned this lesson the hard way, because the box caught on the first step and he pitched forward. A thought screamed in my mind, he's going to fall. He's going to fall down all those stairs. Don't fall, don't fall. God, don't let him fall. He caught himself. I don't know how, but he grabbed the handrail and he paused and he steadied himself and he went down those stairs, picking the box up, moving it forward, taking one step. Picking the box up, moving it forward, taking the next step. He went down those 19 unforgiving cement steps all the way to the bottom, and then he retraced his path. I stood at the fence and watched him till he disappeared. And when I looked around, there was no one at the fence left. They had all gone back to the pool, or tanning, or talking. And I was glad for that. As I walked back to the pool, I went down the 4 steps into the shallow end, and I slid under the water. I was glad for that because it was a relief, and it was safety for me. Because a 12-year-old boy would just rather be caught dead than see someone wiping tears away from his eyes. I don't know why, but when I look back, I kind of think of that moment of going under that water almost as a baptism for me, almost a beginning of recovery from racism I really did not know was there at 12. I sometimes think that the most significant moments in your life aren't like voices from the clouds. It doesn't just happen all at once. Sometimes it can come almost unnoticed and then continue, often for the rest of your life. I look back at that incident, and it really kind of haunts me to this day. I wonder about what I could have done, what maybe I should have done. Could have invited that young man to come in. It was Visitor's Day. I had that right, but I didn't do that. It didn't even occur to me at that time. Now I know that if I had done that, it simply wouldn't have been allowed. I found out that day what a membership-only pool was for, not only for the privilege of those who were members and could go in, but it was to keep those out who you did not want to allow to come in. I didn't brag much after that day about being a member of the Madison Street swimming pool, and I don't think I ever invited anybody again. I started doing my homework myself. That event happened a long time ago. And after all these many years, I still think about that brave young man and what he did that day, walking up those steps to the Madison Street swimming pool gate and asking just to go swimming on that hot, hot day. I've been back in that box with that young man mentally several times. I went I'm sorry, this is a hard story for me to recount. But I've been back in that box with Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and too many people too many times. But every time I've gone into that box to try to understand, it always ends the same way. When I get too hot or get too tired of thinking about it, I just leave the box. You see, what I'm ultimately left with is the realization that I will never be able to fully understand what I'm desperately trying to understand, because I will never have the experience of being in a box that I can't get out of. My experience is growing up as a privileged white guy in a society that's tipped the scales in my favor, mostly by a bunch of old white guys like me. So I am not able to understand the experience of being black in America. And honestly, I think I spent too many years of my life experience swimming in white water. I wish that I knew who he was, that brave young man that I met that day at the Madison Street swimming pool, but I will probably never know. I wish I knew what he was thinking as he walked away. I wonder if he thought what he did that day was futile, that it didn't make any difference, and that nothing was ever going to change. I would like to be able to tell him what a remarkable feat of courage that act was, and that I thought it was amazing. And I would like to tell him that what he did that day actually did change something. It changed me. It changed me.
Our closing hymn this morning is number 318 in the gray hymnal. Please rise as you are able. 318.
My closing words for today are these. Although I encourage everybody to think outside of the box, really want to know how to think outside the box. It helps to try to understand what's in the box. And we all have our boxes. I have that one, I have others. We all know what they are. I encourage us all, please, don't avoid them. Go in your boxes often. Think about them. Let them change you. It's the seeking. Even if there's no end, if you can never fully understand, it's the trying that makes life worthwhile.
We hope you've been nourished in heart and mind by our worship today. And I'd like to thank George for making me change how I will ever see a box again in the rest of my life. As our chalice is extinguished this morning, please join me in the final words as they are posted in the chat and the order of service. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. Please stay tuned after the service, and you'll be able to go to a virtual breakout room for fellowship time. At 11:15, we have both a worship reflection with George here and Reverend Deborah and the membership ministry for principles and practices for you in room 103 is being done today. Our service has concluded, but not the connection has begun. Oh boy, not reading very well this morning. Go in peace and take peace wherever you go.